Can I use this as the intro for all my videos? Hello, I am Raymond Smith, and today, as always, we are talking about a movie, and the movie today is a 1976 West German sci-fi film, Operation Ganymed.
Operation Ganymed, considered as one of the most expensive journeys into space, has now been officially closed.
Ray from the future here. I don't know why they spelled Ganymede wrong. It ends in an E. They pronounce it correctly, but spell it incorrectly. In the title of this video, I will be spelling it their way because that's the name of the movie. We are told by a news broadcast that a very expensive international mission to Jupiter's moons has failed terribly, killing all of the astronauts. So we're just not going to do that anymore. Which was relevant in 76 because in 73 NASA did stop manned missions.
The General Assembly of the United Nations, under whose patronage of which this international mission for peace, friendship and understanding among the nations had been conducted, rose to their feet at the beginning of today's session in memory of the missing space pioneers before returning to the day's agenda. The United States Congress has stated that all future funding for space efforts has been discontinued for now.
But, surprise, surprise, the astronauts are not dead. Which we learned through a 33-minute scene of them circling Earth, talking and talking. Basically, all we need to know is that they showed up 42 hours early and they're not receiving messages from Earth and they don't know what's broken, if it's on their end or Earth's end. So they just kind of sit there and talk about it. And after a final Mayday call to Earth, they decide to just land. Permission or not.
Sie ist Ganymed 2. Ganymed 2. Was ważne jest, kierieście, 1000 mile wieckiere, i popradnik Ganymed.
Mayday.
There are 5 characters in this movie, but you really only need to know the Captain Mac and the scientist Don. Don wants to save all the scientific research from their mission so it doesn't go to waste, but Mac convinces him to just grab a med kit and let's go.
Belt on.
The Ganymed biosamples.
Everything stays where it is, including notes, samples, and souvenirs.
The biosamples are the proof that
They stay where they
organic
are.
life...
Get your belt on.
The medicine kit. I'll get it.
They all cram into the payload capsule, eject it, and hope for the best. The second they land on the beach, Mac is ready to go and starts walking north. Everyone else wants to camp out a little bit, so Mac's left on his own, where he immediately runs out of water and collapses like a dumbass. Luckily for Mac, the rest of the crew, minus Don, who has stayed back to set up camp, go looking for him. They explain that Don's going to desalinate some water and then we'll walk up the coast. But Mac is not convinced and says, no, wait for Don, and then we keep going north. The crew tries to explain to Mac that Don has plenty of water, there's no reason for him to come find us, he's just going to stay there, and if we stay here, we're going to be dead. But Mac is proven right, as Don comes stumbling towards them, hallucinating about what can only be described as action figures being dropped into a bathtub. Mac seems to be the only level-headed one. Well, he's not very level-headed, but he's the closest we got to a leader, and at least he's proactive. His plan isn't great, but he has a plan.
Mac, don't you freak out on us now.
bound to be somebody around here. They might see our signal. After all, it is the planet Earth.
Well, I'd go easy on those flares until you're sure.
I've still got 4 flares left.
Don has a dream going back to his training for the mission. And we learn that he's the scientist. He's probably not qualified to be an astronaut, but we do need a scientist. So, train up, baby. When Don is awake, he's not doing well, let's say.
Yeah, okay. Step out of it, Don. Here, drink. Take it easy. Take it easy. You lose too much fluid.
That's enough, Steve.
You'll
We'll
get
give her a
sick.
shot. That'll calm him down.
No! What's the matter? Take it easy. Nobody's gonna hurt you. Come on.
It might seem bleak, but Mac's plan has worked as they find a village. Which, womp, is completely empty.
Hey! Hello! Someone's gotta be here.
And thanks to a classroom map, they're able to come up with a plan on how to get back to America through Baja California. So you know how I showed you that seemingly pointless scene of Don going up the ladder to grab the med kit and how he didn't stay behind and clean water for them at a camp and how he was super protective when they tried to grab the med kit for him earlier? Well, it turns out he didn't grab the med kit, he grabbed the scientific samples. So they'd have no water and they're all screwed.
We've got to disinfect the water. Give me the tablets.
No tablets.
What's in the box, Don?
Cue Brad Pitt screaming, "What's in the box?"
Give it here.
No.
Give me that box!
As our heroes walk aimlessly through the desert, we see a flashback, a 17-minute flashback through Don's eyes of them on the surface of Ganymede. They find what appears to be liquid water. He sends down one of the astronauts with a capsule in order to get him some samples. But unfortunately, while the samples make it back to the surface, 2 astronauts fall into the crater to their deaths. Yes, in real life, Ganymede is an ice planet with a 100-mile thick sheet of ice covering its surface, so they wouldn't be able to just walk around sand and find a puddle. But they didn't know that for sure in the 70s, so we'll give them a pass. After a weird punishment for dooming them all, Mac makes Don drink dirty water, and our crew continues their wandering through the desert again, when they are saved by finding a plane. Yeah, the plane's also abandoned. So they get some shelter under the plane from the sun and start to have a serious conversation.
Look. Red blisters. Why?
'Cause of the sun, idiot. That's why. What else could it be?
We were mostly in the shade, protected. During the day.
Fallout. Radioactivity, huh? Is that what you're thinking?
You mean we're wandering merrily across radioactive country? That's what you mean, isn't it?
This thought is too much for the Russian member of the team to handle, and he goes berserk.
Nuclear war! Our country burned out! Destroyed! You bastard! I'll kill you, you son of a bitch! I'll kill you!
And so our movie concludes with our remaining crew wandering through the desert. There is a little bit more of the movie that I will get into after my review and talking about the cast and crew. Even if the movie is nearly 50 years old, I don't want to ruin it for anyone that might be interested in watching. So stay tuned to the end for that. Overall, it's an interesting concept. There's a lot of things going on that were super relevant at the time and kind of relevant now. They're friendly, but they're not friends. This was in the spirit of friendship mission. It takes place 2.5 years after they've all been presumed dead, so there's no one to help them except for each other. It takes in consideration the cost of space travel, which at the time NASA 3 years earlier had said no more manned space travel. And it's just too expensive. And now we have certain people spending a lot of money to send themselves into space that people argue could be spent in better places. The problem with the movie is the long, repetitive sequences. In the beginning scenes, there's no reason to just keep repeating. They can't hear us. We can't hear them. Well, we're early. Yeah, we are early. Should we wait? I don't know. Well, let's go talk to these guys. Let's talk to the other people. See what they think. And they just keep doing it. This could be 5 minutes. There was no reason for it to be over 30. And then in the flashback that Don has, we see repel all the way down the hill. See the samples go all the way back up. And we see this 3 times. It's 18 minutes long. There's no need for it. And this is in the American version. The German version of this movie is 20 minutes longer, where these scenes are spread out even more. The movie is completely dubbed in my version, so I can't really talk about the actors' abilities, but I can tell you who the actors were. We have Horst Frank, who was in Das Boot, a bunch of spaghetti westerns, and a couple cop shows. He passed away in 1990, but the rest of these actors were alive until very recently, or are still alive. And in the last 7 years, all of them have been on the German version of Good Morning America, which is called This. As for the other actors, Dieter Laser was the Doctor in Human Centipede. Jürgen Prochnow was in Hitman, NCIS, Twin Peaks, 24, and is going to be in the new Pierce Brosnan movie, The Last Rifleman. The other 2 actors, they were in German cop shows, and the opening narrator was a radio guy and a game show host. The writer-director on this one is Rainer Erler. The only movie he's done that you might have heard of at all is Spare Parts. It's a very similar movie to The Island. The cinematography is done by the terrifically named Wolfgang Grosshoff, who mostly did cinematography for Rainer Erler movies, and the makeup was done by Franz Goebel, who did a great job in this movie, but this was his last film. The music is terrible, and I won't even embarrass that man by mentioning his name. Okay, so now time for some spoilers. So, when we ended, our 4 remaining crew members were walking through the desert, and they slowly peel off until we only have 2 left, Mac and Don. Mac fires off his last flare count 0, and Don carries on without him, hallucinating once again, both of a empty New York City and a New York City where their mission went perfectly and they're all greeted with a ticker tape parade. As Don himself passes out, he dreams that he was rescued and is at a press conference explaining with guilt-felt words that it is his fault all of his friends died.
Waiting. Go ahead, Don, baby.
We're with you, Donnie.
Yeah, tell us the story.
What's that? We can't hear you, Don.
Where are the rest of the crew?
They're all dead. Died for scientific research.
Our suspicions that this press conference is once again another hallucination that is confirmed when the questions turn weird.
But all our systems went off. The magnetosphere was stronger than we anticipated.
There were no women aboard. Did you have any homosexual contacts?
No.
Why not?
No one was into that, really.
As the credits roll, we see Don without his canister for the first time, chanting the word water as he walks through a crowded street towards a crowded city. And we are left to wonder whether he is hallucinating that the people are there and is choosing to ignore them, or whether he is hallucinating that they're not there and is oblivious to the presence of civilization. Thank you for watching. As a last complaint, I would like to note that because of the bad dub, our actors keep saying that they went to Jupiter when they clearly mean Jupiter's moon, Ganymede. Also, Ganymede is named after an underage boy that Zeus kidnapped in order to molest. So that's weird. As always, I shall try to do better next time. Oh, also check out the YouTube channel Biographics that did a great video on Ganymede 2 days ago. Bye.